Uganda is yet to receive the first set of deportees that are going to be sent or deported to our country, Uganda, including Kilma Abrego Garcia. This is interesting because, I mean, why? Why Uganda? Why Uganda? We also have cases of human trafficking now. We are talking about a man who is accused of human trafficking and drug dealing. I care less if he's innocent or guilty. That is none of my business. My business is why my country, Uganda. And to you, our selfish, corrupt politicians, especially Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the current president, who has been president for the last 40 years. Why? The nationals, us, the children of our country, you created a lot of insecurity and unemployment that we had to choose to either stay and get killed or leave our country and go elsewhere to look for jobs. We have so many Ugandans today who are being killed in the Middle East. A lot of girls who are human trafficked. You care less, but you're able to strike deals where a human trafficker is going to be deported and roam free in our country, Uganda. When I talk about slavery, this is not the slavery that you, the Black Americans, went through. I don't know your story. We hear about your story and we feel sorry for you. But as a Ugandan, I feel sorry for myself, considering the fact that a lot of Ugandans today have fled the country because of the insecurity that is in our country. And human trafficking, well, it is rumored because, again, the people who are dealing in the human trafficking part of it, they're all part of the government, relatives to the current president of Uganda. So it's like nobody wants to know. I mean, you're going to report to the police, and so we are talking about a dictator, a regime led by a dictator. You know, there is no justice, nothing. I mean, there's so many cases that we've heard of where people claim somebody was rushed to the hospital, and when they received their body, the cops, because we do bury, we don't burn in my country, we do bury people, and they find their organs were taken out. Who is there to blame? Is it the hospitals? And who owns these hospitals? The politicians themselves. And then today, 26th of August, Uganda is set to receive Kilma Abrego Garcia. And I don't want you to flock in my comment section talking about, oh, he's innocent, or he's not guilty, he pleaded not guilty. Why is he being sent to Uganda? Why Uganda of all countries? Why now, when we have a general election coming up in January? Why now? Why Uganda of all countries? It is interesting. How much have we been paid? We want to know for accountability, because these are things that our government is never going to disclose. Thanks to international media, we're getting to know about these things. It's not even the talk in my country because not so many media houses are talking about it. We don't even know that there was, most of them don't even know that there was a deal which was struck a few days ago. We don't know what the government is doing. We have petty fights, petty internal conflicts that we're always engaging ourselves into whilst things are happening. And as a Ugandan, I'm just supposed to watch the space. I'm not going to sit this one down. I just want to see how it unfolds. But as it is what it is. I'm just ranting because it's all I can do.
Hi guys, welcome to the channel. As you've seen, that is a Ugandan sister that is really pouring herself out, and I really appreciate these times of today that we can really get to see the reality of what is going on within our countries, because I mean everything she said makes sense. I've talked about the situations in the Arab nations when it comes to African people, especially when it comes to like women, girls, how they are treated, how they are, everything that goes on into that side. But then I'm a Ugandan as well, right? So it really doesn't make sense to me how our government, struck a deal, because every nation that I've talked about on this platform, South Sudan, Nigeria refused. Yeah, that's why they were trying to put sanctions on them. Rwanda accepted, South Sudan accepted. Some few other African countries are still in the deals and thinking about it. But then I don't understand, like Uganda really has a lot of refugees from other parts of like the continent, and it's something that Ugandans have always been complaining about, right? But then still, I'm like, as the sister was saying, there is a lot of issues when it comes to African, or let's say mostly Ugandan people outside Uganda, crying out to the government, and the government never does anything to them or to help them. I always bring back the situation of COVID, where literally our government had Ugandans crying in, China, where they were chasing Africans out of their buildings in China. I kid you not, the Ugandan government sent a plane, but that plane only brought back or went and came back with only the people of government people, like the children of government people, like the citizens of Uganda that actually pay taxes. No, they were left there to whatever, lose lives or whatever. And so when we come out and say, like, at this point in time, I'm not even here to blame Trump, because he knows he can just give money to African leaders because they are selfish and don't care about their citizens. And yeah, he can get away with it. Like, I don't understand it. Like, and then talk about the money, like how much were you given for you to like, why even accepting like criminals? Why accepting criminals? Like, okay, so they should just come and do criminal acts in like our country? Like, make it make sense. It doesn't. Guys, whatever I say, whatever African people, African leaders eat is completely different from other species on this planet, because it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, listen to what other people are saying about this whole situation. And yeah, also let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? Is this okay? Like, taking people that are not from those countries, and I don't know, like, how should I even phrase it? Why should you bring someone to a country that they don't come from? Like, why?
Uganda is the latest African country to make a deal with the US to take in deportees. In a statement last Thursday, Kampala's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said that they have agreed to take in third country nationals who may not get asylum in the US but don't want to return to their country of origin. They also said that there are conditions to this agreement that says it must be those that are seeking asylum but do not have criminal records, and that they are not unaccompanied minors. Now, this is the third East African country after Rwanda and South Sudan, but also remember that Eswatini, which is in the Southern African region, also struck a deal with the US. Uganda, according to the UN, already hosts the largest refugee population in Africa, with about 1.7 million refugees being in the region. And though this statement by the ministry says the deal has been concluded, even though we don't know what's been signed or not, a day before that, a senior official had come out and said and denied these allegations or these reports by the media, and stated that they lacked facilities to accommodate these migrants. But then a day later, we have this announcement by the ministry. It has also been stated that Uganda will have the preference of individuals from African countries being the ones transferred to Uganda. So not just any third countries, but countries within the African continent. This is interesting because if you've been following the story of Kilma Abrego Garcia, who is a Salvadorian immigrant in the US who was unlawfully deported by the Trump administration to El Salvador. Then courts made Trump bring him back, and he tried not to, but he did. And now he's back in the US fighting his deportation in courts, and he's also been hit with some federal criminal charges. Now on Monday, he went to court for his cases, and he was re-detained by ICE. And now the Trump government is saying, okay, they didn't succeed in sending him to El Salvador, but now they'll send him to Uganda, which flies directly against Uganda saying they have made the condition that they'll only take in African deportees. This feels like another case of an African country capitulating to Trump and doing what he wants, or the US or the administration or whoever you'd want to put on the other side of that. And then the US, the West, the Trump himself, then going against exactly the things that were supposedly in this deal. So what do you guys think? What do you think of Uganda making this agreement with Trump, being the third East African and I think fourth overall African country to agree to take part in Trump's massive deportation efforts? What do you think of Trump like sort of flying in the face of a statement made by Uganda and saying they want to send someone who isn't an African immigrant? And also, what do you think of the case of Kilma Abrego Garcia, who's turning into the face of the resistance against Trump's massive deportation and immigration push, and the fact that now they didn't succeed in sending him to El Salvador, so now they're going to send him to Uganda? Let me know what you think.
If
you're like me, you maybe woke up this morning to headlines talking about Kilmar Abrego Garcia possibly being deported and sent to Uganda, and you went, huh? Uganda? Why the hell would he be sent to Uganda? Well, it turns out businessman-in-chief President Trump has been striking deals with different countries, especially countries really struggling to gain legitimacy, especially amongst like the northwestern economy that have had high tariffs put on them by Trump. He has been making deals with those countries, including Uganda, to basically take some of our people that we're forcibly deporting in exchange for lowered tariffs or better trade deals with the United States. There's a few questions that I have, and I'm not an expert on this. I'm genuinely asking some of these questions. So I'm going to be doing more research. But number one, how is this not human trafficking? Just like straight up. We are providing monetary gain to other countries to take people that we have, for whatever reason, taken into custody, and we are now sending them to a like third country. It's not where they're from, with really no idea of what's going to happen to them once they're there. Literally, like the international community is going, okay, well, once they get to Uganda or Rwanda or South Sudan or Panama, Costa Rica, El Salvador, all of these places that have agreed to accept American deportees, what happens to them? Are they prisoners or are they refugees? We don't know. So obviously, as a historian, my next question is, has this ever happened before? Like, is this the first time this has happened? And the answer is kind of, and definitely it's the first time this is happening on this scale and of this magnitude. This is sort of the role that Guantanamo Bay has served, right? The US naval base that's on the island of Cuba has been where we just sort of send criminals, send people, suspected terrorists, whatever, that we just want to kind of forget about and go, let's just send them there. There are people that are languishing in Guantanamo Bay for years without any sort of trial, without even like a clear reason for why they're there. And there has been times, one other time, President Clinton in the 1990s, there was a wave of Cuban and Haitian refugees seeking asylum in the United States. And he was like, well, we don't have any room in Guantanamo Bay anymore. And so he sent them to Panama and Jamaica. Now, what happened then is that they were sent as refugees, very clearly, not prisoners. And they had their asylum claims processed. And the ones that were found to have legitimate asylum claims were eventually resettled in the United States for the most part, although some of them were sent, I think, to like Australia very quietly. But that's the only other historical example I can find of this happening. And my last question is, why are we treating deportees and criminals the same way? Now, you might argue that all deportees are criminals because their crime is, being here illegally, right? You overstayed your visa or whatever. But that's not typically how we've treated deportees. If we find someone that is like not here illegally, but they've otherwise committed no crime, if we deport them as a free person back to their country of origin. That's not what's happening anymore. We're sending them to prison and treating them as convicted criminals in third countries where they have no recourse and we have no idea what's going to happen to them.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia is being deported to Uganda. If you remember, Kilmar was illegally deported to El Salvador earlier this year in March against the orders of a judge. Trump defied those orders, essentially bringing Kilmar back to America. Kilmar was ordered to show up to check in at an immigration courthouse where he was subsequently detained by ICE and is currently arrested again. They are planning to deport him to Uganda. If you remember earlier last week, Uganda signed a deal with the United States agreeing to take deportees from ICE, meaning Kilmar, who has been in America for a decade with American children, was illegally deported to another country, brought back, detained again, and is being shipped to a country in Africa. I'm sorry, did he enter Uganda illegally or did he enter America illegally? Nothing about this makes sense. It seems like a grotesque abuse of power and human trafficking, to be honest, because why would Uganda agree to take a third national from a different country that broke the law, technically, quote unquote, in a secondary country? Doesn't make any sense.
Guys, you've heard what people have to say. I don't know what to add on this. Everything is just weird in 2025. Everything is just going like in chaos. I don't know. I just don't understand why African leaders have to betray their countries like this. Like it just doesn't make sense. And for the US to send people where they don't belong, it just screams dictatorship to me. Like you can't tell me nothing about it. It's crazy. Guys, that is it for me in today's video. Ugandans are waking up to reality. Like, hey, if we don't fight for our country, it's not going to be our country anymore. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know why these illegals or criminals are being sent into Africa. I don't know what the agenda is. It's just not okay. And I'm really disappointed to the African leaders letting this happen, especially now my country, Uganda. This is unbelievable. Guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, let me know what you think. I'll see you in another video. Bye.